rolling.
Hello, this is Rick Kay, and for the next few minutes we are going to be talking about accessibility and inclusion. This is really important because we want everyone who visits the zoo to get the best out of the visit that they possibly can. We're going to start with a little exercise. You're sitting at pairs at the table, so I need everyone on the right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Make a tight fist, and then the person next to you is going to have 5 seconds to get that fist open. So when I say go, do whatever you need to get that partner's fist open. Here we go. Ready? Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't see anyone that got a fist open. There was a lot of eye poking and tickling going on there, but no one really got a fist open. I'm going to try this myself. Why don't you go ahead, Meredith, and you make a fist, real tight one. Okay, just sit right there. Meredith, could you please open your fist for me? There we go. See, all you have to do is ask. There's no need to wrestle that alligator. You would ask someone who didn't have a visible disability if you could help them. Why wouldn't you ask someone who has a disability? It is okay to just ask. Now, I've been to a couple of seminars where I learned this little parlor trick and a few other things as well. A lot of those seminars are given by people who have disabilities. A lot of times they're deaf, so they are signing their presentation. Now, I don't understand sign language. They may have a slide deck, they may have open captioning, they may have someone reading out loud so that we understand what they're saying, but the basic thing is, I don't understand sign language, so I don't know what they're saying. How much of that presentation do I miss? Who has the disability? You got to think about it both ways. Now, ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, says anywhere from 18 to 25% of Americans have some sort of disability at some point in their life. That means about 1 out of every 4 people you talk to has a disability. As I look around the room, I see some disabilities here. I see eyeglasses, I wear contacts, so we have a disability. Do we get up in the morning and say, woe is me, the world hates me, I have a disability? Some mornings, yeah, but usually not. People who have disabilities just learn to live with them. ADA says being disabled or having a disability is part of being human. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do to help our guests as they come to the zoo. It's totally okay to talk to the guests, ask them. They know they have a disability, you know they have a disability. It's okay just to talk to them and ask them questions. Now we're going to talk about an acronym here. This is called Breaking the Wall. We love acronyms because we're way too important to say the whole thing out loud, so we need to have things broken down into little short, easy to remember acronyms. Remember the wall. You should be watching. If you see someone pushing someone in a wheelchair through the zoo and they're having a hard time getting up one of our little ramps, ask, do you need some help? It's okay to ask, remember. And then listen to what they say. If they say, no, I'm doing fine, great. Have them, just wish them a happy day, ask them what their favorite animal is, learn something from that situation, but don't force yourself on them. If they do say, yeah, I could use a little push, it's okay. Go behind them, give them a little push them up the ramp, and then learn from that situation. Learn a little bit more about that person. Do they come here often? What's their favorite animal? Just talk to them. They're just people. So we're going to talk about what we call vintage terms versus some more modern terms. Now, when we talk vintage, you may think that terms like handicap and special needs are kind of state of the art, but actually they're not. They're falling into disuse a little bit. We don't want to talk too much about handicap stalls, parking stalls, bathroom stalls. They're accessible stalls, but people who we used to talk about as being handicapped or having special needs are just people with a disability. That's all it is. They just have a disability. Do we use the word crippled anymore? No. Someone who we used to refer to as crippled simply has a physical disability. And what about midget? Oh, I see people cringing on that one. Yeah, we really stay away from that these days. Something you can use in place of midget is a person of short stature, a small person. In conversation with that person, you may learn that they are a dwarf. A dwarf is a medical diagnosis. It usually refers, as I believe, to someone with an average sized torso but shortened limbs. So if they tell you, no, I'm not a person of short stature, that is, I'm a dwarf, respect that. And just think about what their lifestyle is like. Confined to a wheelchair. Oh, we want you to get that out of your mind. People are not confined to wheelchairs. That wheelchair is their source of freedom. If they did not use a wheelchair, they would be confined to a hospital, to an institution, to their home. That wheelchair is the way for them to get out and be part of the public. Now you want to respect that wheelchair. That is their space. You should never lean on someone's wheelchair. If you're going to talk to someone that uses a wheelchair, it's a good idea to just get down to their level and try and meet them eye to eye. Try not to tower over them. Blind person, deaf person, mute person. Oh, we want you to forget this altogether. We need to flip this around. We no longer talk about the deaf or the mute or the volunteers. Those are all great groups of people, but they're individuals within it. So instead of blind person, flip that around. We want you to think of a person who is blind, a person who has low vision, a person who does not speak, a person who does not hear. Person first, disability second, you'll always be on the right track. Does this man have a disability? Stephen Hawking? Absolutely. Has that stopped him from changing the world? Is he smarter than any three of us put together in this room? Undoubtedly. He has changed the world from a wheelchair using electronic devices to communicate. His disability does not slow him down one little bit. As a matter of fact, that man's going to space. Virgin Galactic is going to send him on one of their first flights to the edge of outer space. Who would love to do that? Okay, so having a disability does not slow you down at any time. Let's talk about the differences between accessible and inclusive. Accessible is really good. Inclusive is even better. If we talk about things that are accessible, we talk about equitable use. You see this all the time in bathrooms these days. Instead of having to push a door open, you simply walk in through the space, make the corner, and you're in the bathroom. Much easier to use for everybody. Flexibility in use. Folks that have mobility issues and those of us who are late for a train do enjoy the slidewalks, so it does make it a little bit easier to get along. This is amazing. This is the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. It is a ramp. Anyone can use it. There is no problem with anyone having any mobility issues. Up and down the ramp, you visit the museum. Beauty. We all know about perceptual information. We've all seen the traffic crosswalks that talk to you, flash lights, let you know when it's okay to cross the street. So what can we do? How can we help? Well, that's a darn good question. I'm glad you asked. We can do a lot of things. First of all, we need to anticipate. What was the figure for people with disabilities? Yeah, somewhere around 25%, 18 to 25% of everyone you meet is going to have some sort of a disability. So you need to just be ready for that. Always, always be ready to help. Never hesitate. It's always okay. If you're going to be a little bit late for a meeting or to a post because you stopped to help someone, guess what? That is totally okay. And if anyone gives you a hard time, you have them talk to me. I'll have them talk to Joey the Sausage, and we'll make sure they understand that it is totally okay to help a guest. That is our primary responsibility here. You always have to know good spaces. Guests with service animals, we talked about that a little bit earlier. So you know that service animals are welcome here at the zoo, but there are certain places that even the animals can't go. The owners can always go wherever they want, but they cannot always be assisted by their service animal. We know what to do and how to talk to people that use wheelchairs. And for people that may be on the spectrum, we do have that little quiet space that's in the small mammal and reptile house. We saw that on our tour. You can go in there, close the doors, unplug the TV, just cut off all that outside stimulation and give them a chance to recuperate a little bit. This is more for education, so we're going to skip this part of the slide for now. So, since you don't know who is ever going to be in your audience, we want you to be as inclusive as possible. You may notice someone in your audience who is just absolutely riveted on your face. They won't take their eyes off of your face. That's probably because you are such an outstanding speaker. They just can't stand to miss a word you're saying. But they could be lip reading. So it's very important to be aware of it. Don't focus in on them. Continue to address the rest of the crowd. Slow down just a little bit. You don't need to speak like this. People who lip read usually are trained at a conversational pace. So if you slow down too much, you're going to throw off their comprehension. So just go ahead and speak, maybe enunciate a little bit more clearly, but just continue with your presentation. You should always face the audience. Anyone who can't hear you, if you turn your back to them, you've lost them totally. It's never a good idea to turn your back on an audience anyway, but if you are speaking and someone is lip reading and you turn your face, it's like they've lost their hearing altogether. So you just need to address the audience and face them all the time. What about if there's someone in your audience with low vision? You may see someone with a service animal. You may see someone with very thick glasses or holding a cane. You may think immediately, uh-oh, I have to be careful about what I say. I can't say look, I can't say see, I will offend them. Guess what? Yes, you can. But you have to orient what you want them to look at to their place in space. You cannot say simply, look to the left, because we have a lot of different lefts going on in this room right now. What you would be able to say is, if you look to your left, you will see the lion on his rock. Totally okay, very descriptive, and people with low vision will appreciate that. It is okay to say look and see as long as they know where to look and what it is they're looking at. Totally okay. So we're going to play a little game here in just a few minutes. First of all, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back and learn how we can be very, very descriptive in our speaking. It's good when you're speaking to someone that may have a visual disability. It also makes you a lot more interesting as a speaker if you learn how to describe things a little bit more fully and a little bit richer. It makes you just that much more exciting. So I see we have an audience that has departed here. We'll check back with them in just a second. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you after the break. Have a wonderful day.